Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us today for a quick demonstration of our workflow automation platform. I'm Greg Ives with the product marketing team here at Nutrient, and joining me today is workflow automation engineer Penny Liu. Penny, always a pleasure to present with you.
Hey guys, thank you, Greg. Glad to be here.
All right. Well, before we jump into our presentation, I do need to cover a few housekeeping items. Today's event should last somewhere around 30 minutes or so, maybe a little bit shorter, depending on how many questions we get. If you have any questions along the way, just find that Q&A functionality. It's on the right-hand side of your screen. Also, just a quick note, you'll see that we pre-recorded the actual demo portion of the webinar, and that's so that Penny is available to answer any of your questions that you may have along the way. She'll be backstage answering with me, and we actually have a guest presenter or a question answerer, John Bartlett, as well behind the stage joining us. So excited about that. And then finally, one of the most popular questions that we do get is this being recorded? Yes, the webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand on our site. All right, on to the agenda. First, many of you attending today might have missed our recent announcement, and that was around our rebrand. So to start things off, I'm gonna, maybe give like a 60, maybe 90-second overview of the new company and why we're rebranded. Then we'll jump into why you're here today, and that's really to learn more about workflow automation platform. After that overview, I'll hand it over to Penny, where she'll run through a demo of one of our most common use cases. And then at the end, we have saved some time for a few questions. All right, so to kick things off, you're likely aware that we made a major announcement recently back in the fall with a complete company rebrand. So whether you knew us before as PS, PDF Kit, Mahimbe, Effortless, Aquaforce, or even Integrify, we are now Nutrient. Same company with all the same technology, just rebranded under a single banner with a single mission. And that is to evolve how humans experience and interact with documents. With the rebrand, we now have an unrivaled suite of document solutions all under one roof. That includes our industry-leading SDKs, our M365 low-code solutions, and what you're about to see today, our workflow automation platform. Nutrient takes pride in simplifying the complexity that you face with speed, savings, and security to become your solution for today's digital document challenges, but also, more importantly, to be your partner for tomorrow's document innovations. We are Nutrient, and we are thrilled to be building the future of document innovation alongside of you. All right, before I hand things over to Penny, I wanted to give a quick overview of workflow automation. So some of you joining us today may have known the platform by its former name, Integrify, which was founded way back in 2001. So fast forward 24 years, and we've now grown to more than 500,000 users worldwide. And that's because in addition to our easy to use technology, we take pride in delivering exceptional customer experience and service with our automation experts. Whether you're looking to maximize productivity, eliminate bottlenecks, or improve visibility, our workflow automation platform can be customized to your exact requirements. But why Nutrient and not some other company? Well, first of all, we are uniquely positioned to leverage our industry-leading document technology to power even the most advanced workflows within a single platform. And as you'll see in today's demo, everything is super intuitive and built with the end user in mind. But don't just take my word for it. Let's see it in action. Penny, take it away.
So when I was preparing for this webinar, I was thinking about this question. How did the CapEx workflow actually evolve in human history? And I started thinking about how a CapEx workflow may have looked in medieval Europe. And this is what I came up with. I actually asked ChatGPT to generate this picture for me. So I think while a CapEx workflow as a structured financial process didn't exist at the time, large expenditures still happened at the time. For example, for land improvements, for civic projects, for military needs. So this is how it may have looked. let's say a noble identified the need of building a castle for defense purposes. So he submitted his idea to his local lord. And the lord led a consultation with his key advisors to discuss feasibility. And if the expenditure is too large, the lord may also have to seek approval from his superior, for example, a king, right? So, and then they also have to work with Treasury to find out how much money they have, how much gold they have to spend for this project. And that's what we call a budget today, right? And once everything goes well, they got a green light, the king can sign off on this project and they can kick off the project to start building this castle. So this is how a capex workflow may have looked in medieval Europe. And next, let's take a look at how a capex workflow actually looks like in modern companies. Here's another picture to illustrate that process. It's actually very similar. It started with a department identifying the need. Let's say they need to buy computer equipment for the department. So then an official CapEx request was submitted, which will first go to the manager of the department for approval. And it will go to finance department where they will look at budget and decide on the funding availability. And based on the amount of the expenditure, this request also may need to go to like senior management, executives, or even board members. And once all the approvals go through, the procurement process can start there. So I actually drew out a flow chart for each of these two scenarios. And then when I looked at them side by side, I realized that I don't think the nature of the CapEx workflow actually changed much over time. It started with initiation and then goes through approvals according to what kind of hierarchy this organization or the system has. And a financial validation also needs to happen. So yeah, the steps actually didn't lessen. It's about the same number of steps. But then my question is, how technology actually helped with a long-lasting process like a CapEx workflow? And then my answer to that question is by reducing human activities in the process. You can save a lot of meetings and discussions and a lot of back and forth by standardizing a repetitive work. That's also what I do on a daily basis. Me and my coworkers help our customers streamline their process, identify repetitive tasks, and give them tools to do them faster and more accurately. And that's exactly what computers are best at. So our goal is clear: to reduce human activities in the process as much as possible. Not that we're against human activities, but that we want to save precious human brains, human energies for more creative and high valuable activities. Next, it's time for me to give you a demo on how a modern CapEx workflow actually works within workflow automation platform before we give a deeper dive into how technology actually helps achieve those goals. Just give me 1 second and I will get the demo ready. Alrighty, so what you're looking at right now is the interface of Nutrient Workflow Automation. And more precisely, this is the process builder within the platform. And what you can see is a workflow that I already mapped out. It is exactly a CapEx workflow. So what I'm going to do is actually run a request, run an instance of this workflow so that you can see the flow of it. But before I do that, I wanted to walk you through this process a little bit. So you can see that it started with a CapEx form. So that's the initiation part that we talked about, right? It's going to be a form task. So all the users, the person who has a capital expenditure request needs to do is just put down his information in the format of a digital form. And once he hits the submit button, it will go to the person it needs to go to. So that's the first step. And the next step is an approval task for the facility manager to approve. And if you look at, in the world of workflow automation platform, each task has an owner. And the owner is basically the person who's responsible for completing the task. So the owner of the first form task obviously will be the requester and whoever has access to this workflow. And let's take a look at who actually owns the task for the first facility manager approval. If I go to the recipients of this task, you can see that there are actually 4 people who can approve at the first approval step. And it does not go to all of them. Instead, it checks something in the form. There's a field in the form for the person to indicate whether this facility is east or west or north or south. And based on which region it is, it will go to the facility manager of that region. So you'll see that in a minute. And after the facility manager approval, it will go to the department VP approval. Then after department VP approval, you can see that there are actually 2 paths. So it started branching out. And this is based on the amount of the expenditure. If it's less than 200,000, it does not have to go through the rest of the approvals. It would just go straight to approval and end the process. But if it's greater than 200,000, it will have to go to CFO for review and approval. And from the CFO approval onward, there are also 2 branches. If this request, this expenditure is less than 5,000 K, but more than 2,000 K, it will just needs the eyes of a CFO and can go straight to approval and end the process. However, if it's greater than 5,000 K, it also needs the eyes of the CEO. The CEO has to sign off. So this shows you that we can do a dynamic approval based on 1, the hierarchy of this organization, 2nd, the amount of the expenditure, and also the region. And you can define your own criteria in the approval process. So what I'm going to do next is actually run a live request based off this workflow. So I'm going to just hit run request on my screen, and it will go to it will initiate this workflow and then start with this form. So this is the end users, the user who needs to submit a CapEx request needs to see. And let's make up a project. Let's call it project matrix. And the project type is computer equipment facility. Since I'm based out of the East Coast, I'm going to choose East. The department is IT. And the description is we need faster computers. All right. And division. Okay. If it's included in the budget, then I can click on yes and then indicate the budget year. So we'll do 2025 and the amount of the approval. So this is that exact field that determines who it needs to go to. I'm going to put down 300,000 so that we can see it will go to some of the people, but not all of them. All right. There's also an attachment field for you to be able to upload supporting documents if you want. And I'm going to go ahead and submit this form. Okay. So at this point, as the user who submitted this capital expenditure request, my job is done. This workflow actually has gone somewhere else. But now, if we look at the flow view of this process, you can see that the CapEx form has been completed and the facility manager approval is now open. So what the facility manager will receive is actually an email that looks like this. So since this workflow is in development mode, I'm actually wearing the hats of all of them so that we can see it. But once the workflow is flipped to production, it will go to each of the real recipients. So this is the email. It looks a little bit off on my Gmail, but that's the fault of my Gmail. So in this email, you can see that it's basically a notification to the facility manager with the details of this CapEx request, and also some options, some choices for the facility manager to pick from. So they can actually approve from email if they want to. Of course, if they have login to the workflow automation software, they can also go into the software itself and then make the same choice. But if they want to make a very quick decision, then they can just go ahead and hit approve from the email, and then it will lead them to a screen that was he already made the choice. So this is basically an optional comment that he can make, and it will be recorded by the software. Let's say looks good. All right. So I'm now wearing the hat of that facility manager, and I'm going to submit my approval choice. So now let's go back to the workflow and then refresh the flow chart. And you can see that now it has moved on to the department VP approval. So same thing. If I go to my email, now I'm wearing the hat of the department VP. And same thing. I can either deny or cancel, or I can stand back for rework, or I can approve. I'm going to also approve to move forward. Same thing. Great. All right. So as the department VP, I'm also going to submit my approval choice. Now, same thing. Let's go back to this flow chart and refresh. Then now, obviously, has gone to the CFO approval because the amount of the expenditure actually meets the criteria. It's less than 500,000, but greater than 200,000. So as the CFO, I also get an email, and I'm also going to approve. Okay. Go ahead. Alrighty. Now, same thing again, refreshing the flowchart. Let's see where we are at now. Okay. So this actually concludes this request. It has already gone to the end because CEO does not have to approve. The CEO is the last gatekeeper. However, because this specific expenditure request was not large enough to need his eyes on it, so it just went straight to the finish line. So, and if I go back to my inbox, you can see that there's a final notification sent to the requester himself, informing him that his matrix project has been approved. And that's basically the demo. It's really quick. However, there are actually a lot of nuances under the hood. And what I'm going to do next is actually dissect this workflow and then show you how technology actually made that happen and how much more you can do with it. So again, give me a second and let me bring back my slides. All right. So what you're looking at right now is probably the most important slide of this entire webinar. On the slide, I basically divided a typical CapEx workflow into 6 steps, and we're going to take a closer look at how workflow automation platform can help human beings with each of these individual tasks. So we start with initiation of a CapEx request, and that is very obvious. If I go back to this workflow that I built, that initiation actually lies in the CapEx form, the first form task. And we do have a form builder within the platform for you to be able to build whatever kind of forms you want. So it's a very quick drag and drop process in building the forms. We support a variety of question types, and what you can do is just drag and drop. But if you want to make this form actually dynamic, we can also support you in building question rules to achieve that type of conditional or dynamic behavior of this form. And in this form, there's something like if you click yes in included in capital budget, it will bring up budget year. But if it's no, it will go away. This is only the lowest level of dynamics on the form, so you can do a lot more than that. And we don't have a lot of time today to dive deep into the functionalities of the form builder, but maybe we can do that in another webinar. So by having a digital form and mapping out the fields on the form, you actually standardize the entry of the CapEx request so that the users have to provide information that is required for the rest of the process. And it will also help reduce human errors. So that is the initiation of the CapEx workflow. Now let's take a look at the approval. The approvals are basically the backbones of a CapEx request. And let's take a look at how workflow automation can help with the approval part. So I'm going back to this workflow again, and we already touched on that a little bit, but what I wanted to say is it's a lot more than that. So you can define your own rules. Every company has their own organizational matrix and their own rules of approvals, and we can help you map them out using our technology. And so one thing I want to point out in this workflow is that you can see that there's also a little escalation process piece in this workflow. Basically, if the facility manager did not respond in time in completing his task, it will actually escalate to the departmental VP approval. So this is just one of the nuances that you can have in the workflow, but it's really a lot more than that. Speaking of the approvals, another thing that I want to highlight is the audit trail. So let's go to the manage request tab of the software. You can see that every single request is listed on this interface. And then this is the one, project matrix was the one that I entered earlier. And if you click into that, not only can you see this flow chart, flow view, you can also go to the request detail and see the audit trail of each steps. So it started with CapEx form, and then it went through facility manager, department, VP, and CFO approval. And each one of them has the approval choice and also a timestamp. So these are all written into our databases, and it cannot be tampered. So it's a way for you to retrieve an audit trail of each CapEx request. Alrighty. Next, we're going to talk about the financial review. So financial review is mostly about budget. So let's say you have this budget information stored somewhere, either in a database or in another software. We can help you connect to that source of information for you to do a double cross-check. So in workflow automation, we do have some type of task that enable you to do integrations. For example, this REST client task that allows you to actually make API calls to other softwares. And we also have database type of tasks that allows you to establish database connections to either our database or your internal databases so that you can pull information from there or write information into your database. So these two types of tasks can help you with the budget if you want to look at a different source of data throughout this process. Then I want to talk about the signing. So if you're looking for digital signature, we do provide a few options for you, either for electronic signatures or digital signature, which is the piece that we're actually working on currently. I'm going to move on to the procurement vendor selection. This is also similar to the budget. Let's say a CapEx request has been completed and the procurement process started, where you would want to select a vendor or even kick off a procurement process. Then there are a few things you can do. You can either integrate with another software, for example, pushing this request over to QuickBooks. Or if you want to start a child process, another separate process after the completion of a CapEx request, then you can leverage our task called a launch request task that helps initiate a child request from there. So that is for the procurement and vendor selection. And lastly, I want to talk about post-purchase reporting. So reporting is very important in the world of automation, workflow automation. So we do have a report engine that allows you to build custom reports based on any data in any workflow. The data is stored in our database, and then you can write even custom queries to pull them back in the format you want. And I actually prepared a dashboard with some reports in it. So this is what we call a dashboard. It's a component that allows you to grab different types of reports, charts, and combine them in this one place and distribute to whoever needs access to this information. So actually on this dashboard, the first part is some shortcuts to the workflows. If end users land on this page, they don't have to look for that specific workflow to start a request in. They can just quickly click on the shortcuts to start submitting their request. And this is a pie chart for the data based on broke down into different divisions. And down below is a table view for basically all the CapEx requests. And you, as an admin, this information will be really helpful so that you can monitor the process of each individual request and see where they're at. And you can also filter on them by the approved ones, the rejected ones, and the ongoing ones. And you can also set filters against the amount. So this is what report can do. It really provides a lot of visibility for the data. And that is something that medieval European capital expenditure request cannot achieve.
Penny, what an amazing job. Love the demo, and I especially love the medieval reference there.
Thanks.
And while you focused on CapEx, which is obviously one of the most common applications we see, right? We can absolutely help automate hundreds of different use cases across an organization. Not to mention, IT admins love us. Not only can we integrate seamlessly into most tech stacks, we provide enterprise-grade security that ensures your data is protected. All right, that brings us to the end of today's presentation. Penny, as always, great job. And to our attendees, if you have any questions about what was just covered, go ahead and drop them into the Q&A now. I already see a couple coming through. Not only do we have Penny on hand, but like I mentioned earlier, we do also have VP of Product Solutions, John Bartlett, joining us. Or if you'd like to talk about your specific needs offline with one of our team members after the webinar, we'd love to hear from you, whether that's reaching out to our customer success team or a member of our sales organization. We also invite you to visit nutrient.io to learn about workflow automation and all the other solutions we provide. You'll find a ton of helpful resources like our blog, product pages, guides, and demos. You can even sign up for a free trial of our solutions to test things out for yourself. All right, Penny and John, let's see how many questions we can get to here.
All right.
All right. So the first one, do you have a mobile interface?
Yes, we have a mobile responsive interface. So you don't need a separate app to handle requests and tasks coming in. Now, with that said, we actually have a app coming out early next month that's specifically focused on approvers tasks, because that's the most common use case we have for the using a mobile device and interacting with workflow. So we're pretty excited about that, but it's not required out of the box. The app or the platform will respond to the web interface that you're using, even if you're on a device like a phone or tablet.
Excellent. The next one, can we host your software on premise?
Yes, we do have a self-managed or on-premise option. So you definitely have that option available to you. in addition to our standard cloud offering. The standard cloud offering is a fully managed SaaS infrastructure hosted on AWS.
All right. Next question. What are you doing with AI in your platform?
Oh, good question.
Timely too.
There's lots of things we're working on there. Things that are coming up quickly though are next month we'll release our AI data extraction field. So on a form, a process designer can include this task and map it to other fields on the form. And the idea is that when a user attaches a document, the AI will go in, go find those data elements that are relevant to that form, extract them from the PDF, and insert them into the form, making it a much more efficient process. A lot of times we have users, even still now, rekeying in information from a PDF, and there's always room for error there. So with the AI piece, it's going to make it much more faster, more efficient, and really let the users focus on the data analysis as opposed to rekeying in the information from the form. We also have a Ask AI companion that's going to be included as part of the platform. That'll come next month as well. If you want to get a sneak peek into that, it's on our Nutrien.io website. But this will be very helpful for process designers. So let's say you're implementing a new task that you haven't spent much time with, like maybe a database pull task. That's a little more complex. This will help you, or this will help give you some information around that, point you to the right direction in terms of our help website without having to reach out to our team and set up a meeting to discuss it. So pretty excited about those options coming, and a lot more on the AI front to come this year.
Absolutely. Very exciting. All right. Looks like we have a couple more. Are the dashboards standard or can they be customized?
Dashboards can definitely be customized per user and role. Typically, we see customers implement a company-wide dashboard. So that would be available to everyone in the organization. And then in addition to that, they'll have customized dashboards that are specific to their role and needs. And you can have as many dashboards as you want.
That's great. All right, we have time for one more. Can you integrate with Salesforce?
Yeah, we can integrate with Salesforce. We have a Power Automate connector that will help facilitate that. We really have a lot of integration options available. We have a Zapier connector too, which opens up the doors to all kinds of integration opportunities. And then just built into our app too, we have integration task that you can use as part of your workflow. And of course, we have our API, a fully documented API on Swagger. So,
all right.
Lots of integration options there, Greg.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much. That is all the time that we have for today. If we didn't get to your question, no worries. We'll follow up directly after the webinar. On behalf of Penny, John, and the entire Nutrien team, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.